Welcome back in, everybody, to the JAKIB Postgame Show after the Eagles get their first win. I want to welcome and thank everybody in, all of our new members, guys. We got people becoming members like crazy to get their hands on that Saquon Barkley jersey giveaway. We will be giving away a Saquon Barkley jersey to one member. The deal is every time he goes over 125 yards, could be up to 20 times if he does it in the playoffs. We're giving away one Saquon jersey to a channel member. So thanks to everybody.
By the way, Zander, he went to 126, and I announced it on Twitter. And then he went back. He had
I saw that, Johnny.
A 1 yard loss, and I'm like, oh boy, if he loses another one.
I was doing it anyway, John, because you know what? 3 touchdowns warrants a couple extra yards. So I was warning it. I was going to do it anyway, but you're right. I did notice that as well. Guys, I got a question I want to ask you both. And maybe people won't like it so much coming off a win. I'm fired up. We are 1-0. It was a good win in Brazil. Now they get to come back to the States and kind of get things, back on the tracks here. 3 turnovers tonight for Jalen Hurts. It was a big problem for him last year. Sills, I'm going to start with you on this one. How concerned are you with the 3 turnovers tonight for Jalen Hurts?
Well, I said it all throughout my show on the National Football Show. If anybody in their mind, because some dude was posting that this guy didn't throw a pick in practice, that this guy wasn't going to, with all the new responsibilities that Jason Kelce was talking about, that thing was going to turn around in 4 months without any game preparation or any game throws, was ridiculous. This Jalen Hurts, that did not shock me. Zander, you heard me today all day going, this is going to be a bumpy start for him. And it was a bumpy start. Now, will Jalen Hurts play like this in December? Do I believe that? No. Because now he's going to, what John said earlier, this is going to be more reps. The more reps he gets in this offense, the more opportunities that he gets to see what's in front of him, the more comfortable and the more comfort zone that he gets with Cam. All of that, it's going to take some time. Here's the most important thing, though, at the end of the day. They won. They won with him playing a C-minus game. Now, like John said, and I mean C-minus game in the passing game, there were moments he was really good in the passing game. Most of them weren't, though. And again, his legs were what opened up a lot of what he did throwing the ball. Am I concerned? No, because I said it on my show today. Once again, this is going to be a process. The more reps he gets, the better he will get in this. And again, I mean, Kellen Moore walking in there and drawing things up on a chalkboard versus actually going out and playing. You know what really looked different tonight to me? It looked like a team that was knocking off rust in the first half, the offense, and it looked like a defense that had gotten some reps, and it looked like a defense that was kind of a little bit more prepared for that game tonight. That's how that played out. And like John said, second half, some of the deficiencies came around. He started gashing the team. Conditioning looked like it became an issue, especially in the front 7. There's still holes on defense. I thought the defense was more prepared than the offense tonight. And there were special players tonight on offense. Barkley, AJ. But the one guy who wasn't special tonight, consistently like the rest of those guys, was the quarterback.
Yeah, I thought it was a mixed bag. I think it's.
But John, I'm not down on him. I think this is just going to take time.
Well, I am concerned. I'm a little bit more concerned with the turnovers, not the snap, the interceptions, because those are just bad decisions. Those are just flat out terrible decisions.
Terrible.
And that, sometimes you have to look at every interception, and sometimes it's a tip ball, and it's not even the quarterback's fault. But those were bad decisions. The first one, late throw over the middle of the field, as I mentioned, cardinal sin. The second one, late throw, again, across his body in the red zone to the middle of the field. Like, rookies shouldn't do that. Those are bad decisions. That concerns me. And then on top of the 2 that were turnovers, you had 2 more turnover-worthy throws, as the advanced stats people will tell you. The one that should have been a pick 6 by Kayshawn Nixon. And then Jair Alexander jumped a route on A.J. Brown that he should have picked off and wasn't able to bring it in. These are all bad decision throws, and that's a lot of bad decision throws. Now, when you talk about Elliott and the interceptions at training camp, yeah, I had a lot of fun with that this summer. It's meaningless. It's stupid. Blah blah blah. But you know, I had been talking all. I don't expect Jalen Hurts to have a big turnover season, not because of training camp, because of his history. He threw in his first 2 years as a starter. He threw 9 interceptions and 6 interceptions, 15 total. That's really good. And he threw 15 alone last year. And I'm thinking, this guy's typically ball security conscious. He's going to regress back to his mean. He's going to have a good year taking care of the football. And here we are in week 1, and he didn't do a good job taking care of the football. So I am a little bit worried about that, because those are bad decisions. Again, it's not a tip pass over the middle of the field. It's not a receiver drop.
It's a read.
Yeah, it is a bad decision by the quarterback. And there were 4 of those in one game, and you somehow got out of that game with a win. So I would count yourself lucky for that. At the same time, I give him credit because, as I said earlier, relentless is the word I use. Doesn't matter how many bad plays. If you don't make those plays and he's got another play, he just might make a play. And that's what he did on that final drive 3 times, really, including the big run and then the 2 throws to Devontae.
No doubt. Good stuff there from Johnny Mack. Good stuff from Big Sills as well. Guys, you got 2 new coordinators in for the Eagles this year, Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. Both made their debuts tonight. I'm going to start on Vic Fangio. Sills, I'll come to you first. What'd you think of the Vic Fangio scheme? What'd you think of how he looked out there or how his defense looked out there in their debut in Eagles Green?
Again, I don't think they have the personnel yet on that side of the ball, or it's not mature enough yet. I think Quinyon Mitchell is going to be a ball player. There is no question about it. You saw that out there. But again, linebacker core still has to develop. Great start for Zach Bond, mixed bag for Dean, okay? And are you deep enough there at that linebacker position? I got to tell you, the most troublesome part was the interior defense. If you can't stop the run better than that, Green Bay, do you look at Green Bay and go, that's a run-centric team? I don't look at Green Bay like that. They're play action, and the reason they gave the quarterback $53 million is because of the fact that they want to play action. Actually, a guy who was quiet tonight, who I thought really put pressure and helped the other teams have pressure, I'll tell you who benefited the most, Zach Bond, and what player. You know who did? Josh Sweat. I thought Josh Sweat didn't have a lot of stats in the game, but he held up his side of the ball. And after a while, they started getting out wide and running those stretch plays towards the other side of the field. He had a solid game. Did he have a statistical game? No. But I thought he was solid in that point and how he played out there. He was a major part, in my opinion, for at least being decent up front. Vic kept everything underneath. I thought what they really did was, to me, if I had to pick a line, the linebackers probably played better than the line, the tackles, the corners, and even the safeties. The safeties and the linebackers probably played the best on that defense. And that's kind of, John, what he's looking for when you play a high 2 safety defense and with those with those corners off the ball the way they do. I thought Vic's group, probably for what they had and where I thought they were, I thought they were better than I thought tonight. And so I give them kudos tonight. Again, a lot of work to do. Okay. And like John said, 400 yards, a bunch of points. It's still a work in progress. But I'll tell you what, that thing could have been worse than what I thought it was. And Bond played well. Quinyon played well. N'Kobe was okay. I still think, John, they need to get more pressure on the quarterback if they're going to be
Well,
a
yeah,
defense.
and yeah, that might be helped by just being on a NFL field. But we'll see. If it continues when they get back to against Atlanta, and Kirk Cousins has a history of gouging them pretty good from a passing perspective. So that'll be a big test because I think if he's healthy, and we don't know if he's going to be healthy, but Atlanta's probably a better team than people realize. But
Better
yeah, I
O-line,
mean,
John. Better O-line.
yeah, they're very good off. They've everything. They got good skill position people. Now they finally have a quarterback, good offensive line. They have a chance. They even got a pass rusher, Matt Judon. They've been looking for a pass rusher for seems like 5 years. But I think that's the old defender coming out. You, Dan. I'm not giving these guys any gold stars, with the exception of Zach Vaughn. I'm going to go Jim Schwartz. No gold stars for me. Yeah, I don't. And Reed made a great play. Quinyon, I'm with you. A lot of good signs. Some bad. And that's what you expect with a rookie. N'Kobe up and down as well. Avante was up and down. The front didn't play that well, and I think part of that was field related. But both sides had to deal with it. So that's not. I will say they were better than the Green Bay defense.
Yeah.
I will say that. So if you're working on this night, but I guarantee you, Vic is not happy with that performance. Other than Zach Vaughn, I mean, you got to be happy with Zach Vaughn. But yeah, a lot of work to do on that side of the football. You gave up 414 yards on 58 plays. You talk about the running game. Now people are and think about all the missed plays, as I said, from Green Bay on top of it. Like how much they left on the field. That was obvious. Yeah, that was not a good performance. And the running, to your point about the conditioning, I mean, Green Bay only ran it 21 times for 163 yards.
Wow.
Now, the Eagles ran it for what you think. Boy, it was a good rushing day for the
7
Eagles.
yards a carry, John? Holy cow, he's not happy with that.
You talk about the Eagles, and they ran for 144 yards. They ran it 38 times. You take away the one Barkley run, which was 34 yards, they ran for 110 yards on the other 37 carries. Like it was a chore for the Eagles to run. Green Bay, early JAKIB struggled, but then, as you mentioned, the second half. The other kid, Wilson, he looked like he had more juice. He ran it 4 times for 46 yards, and they had the big stretch touchdown to Reed, which was 33 yards. So, yeah, it was not a good performance from that defense.
No doubt.
Hey, John, I got a question. For you. Did Nolan Smith play?
Oh, yeah, he played.
He did?
He played a lot. Early.
I didn't see an impact play at all from him.
Well, I didn't see an impact play from any defenders. I saw Jalen Carter a couple times because he's Jalen Carter, but I didn't see any impact plays. I didn't see an impact play from any of the front players. I think part of that has to do with the field.
What about Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter? Did either of you see anything from them? They didn't stick out to me at all.
Early in
the first quarter, I thought they did it. Zander, they won the game in the first quarter by not allowing touchdowns and allowing only field goals. That came back, like I told you, that came back to haunt. That came back to haunt them in that game at the end when it came to the score. The missed field goal and the fact that they were not able to convert those into touchdowns won that football game. And so you got to give a little bit up there for Davis and Carter in there at the beginning of the first quarter. But to John's point, they totally ran out of gas. And Vic even mentioned it, John, in his last press conference. When they asked him, they go, what do you think of the conditioning of the two guys? You could tell he wanted to have more reps for those guys in exhibition football. He said, we'll find out. Well, we found out they were not in shape in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So I'm I'm trying to pull up the box score and look for. So Ballin lit it up. It's like,
Tackles.
LeBron James in the box score. He's got 15 tackles, 2 sacks, a tackle for loss, two quarterback hits.
That's all
and
pro
if-
stuff.
Yeah. If you look at quarterback hits and that nature, Carter was credited with 1, Sweat was credited with 1, and Ajoma was credited with 1, and that's it. And that's it. I mean, Vaughn had the 2 sacks, no other sacks in the game. He had 2 of the quarterback hits, 2 of the 5. Wasn't a good day for the front. I believe part of that was because of the field, but wasn't good. And the Green Bay defense, which is, boy, they got a lot of work to do. They're even worse. They had 5 as well, but at least Rashawn Gary showed up a little bit. He was the one front player on both teams that kind of splashed on occasion.
I thought he gave Micaiah Becton a little working out there tonight because he was back.
I'm surprised. I think Mekhi played well. I gotta watch the film, but
he was.
I thought Mekhi.
Was a force.
I thought he played well.
He was a force for the Packers out there, though. They had a hard time blocking him.
You're talking about who are you talking about?
The defensive lineman that they had who was getting back there in the backfield.
Rashawn Gary?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised Becton did a better job on Kenny Clark than I expected. You didn't see much of Kenny Clark at all. Rashawn Gary's an edge player. So, he gave Lane some trouble. Now, one of the plays, Lane thought they were going to call a penalty and sort of stop playing. But you just don't see Lane Johnson get beat much. And he got beat a couple times by Rashawn Gary, who's a really good player. But that Green Bay defense, boy, they got to get back to the drawing board.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Good stuff there. Good breakdown. John, I want to ask you something specifically. Your sights were set on Jalen Hurts' handling of the blitz. How do you think he responded to that tonight?
Yeah, I thought he was helped out by the field. Same reason. I don't think you saw. He had the one good pass to A.J. Brown on a blitz that was really bearing down on him. That's the one where I noticed, and AJ was able to turn it up and get the first down. I didn't see a lot. I'm a little surprised that, and maybe it had to do with the field. I thought I'd see more blitzing. In fact, at the end of the game, when they were losing the game, it was all 4-man rushes, and they were just letting Jalen sit in the pocket and, just wait for the opening to run the football. I thought it was a really bad game plan in the fourth quarter from not only Matt LaFleur from a game management standpoint, but you talk about a rookie coordinator, Jeff Hadley. I didn't know what he was trying to accomplish in that last drive, which siphoned the clock. No sense of urgency. No, I don't know. It was ugly.
Sills, any takeaway on what Jalen did against the blitz tonight?
I thought it was a mixed bag.
Yeah,
I agree with John. I thought there were times that he threw out of it. There were times where he was pressured and went down with sacks. I'll tell you one thing that Green Bay did do. They pressured him from the corners and kept him in the box. And anytime Jalen tried to get out the box, he couldn't.
Yeah, they were very cognizant of keeping him in the pocket. But that's one point where I said with Zander during the halftime, Jalen still bothers me. He plushes right at the first sign of trouble instead of climbing the pocket.
And it's a habit, John. It's a habit that.
Yeah. And I don't know, it might be part of his DNA at this point, because that's really hard. It really is a habit. And that's hard to break. I covered Christian Ponder back in the day who had that problem, and he didn't have nearly the talent of Jalen Hurts, even though he was a first round pick. And he was just never had a chance because he couldn't climb the pocket. And when you flush, as a former defensive lineman, Dan, you're especially when you flush and your eyes are down, you're not only cutting off one half of the field, the play's over as soon as your
You're
eyes.
cutting off deep throws after that
Yeah.
because you're looking down.
Yeah, yeah. So as soon as the eyes go down, the play's over. Yeah.
John, I thought again, I mean, of all the guys in the huddle, I mean, AJ was great. Barkley was great. Devontae was great. I even thought Goddard made some nice plays. I thought
he had a big play.
I thought the offensive line was a little up and down. I thought for the majority of the time, once they got to running the football, that's where they took over the football game. I think it was, 38-30, and the run differential to passes. So they were kind of in that middle, like we talked about where they wanted to be. And as John said, it would dictate how the game went. Of course, you're going to run the ball. I'm sitting there watching the game late going, don't throw it. Don't throw it. You're up 3. You got the clock on your side. It's 2:15. Let's roll this thing out, and you win the ball game. Again, throwing the ball made no sense there. You made them use all their timeouts. You had the 2-minute warning gone, run the football, and they did. So they kept to their form, and they went back to a little bit of the 22 mentality. But once again, I mean, I'm looking at Hurts tonight. There were really nice plays, and there were awful plays. So again, I mean, coming out of this game tonight, the most important thing is they get the win. The defense gets the win. Jalen gets the win. But, I mean, there's a lot of work to do. To sit there and think this, John, here's one thing to think about. For anybody to think that was a Super Bowl performance football team tonight, and to watch what you watched, a little bit of what you saw last night between the Ravens and the Chiefs, and then you watch that Packer and you watch the Packer and the Eagle game, that's night and day. Those two teams were night and day. When I watched those two teams play and what I saw tonight, I saw inconsistency with Love, and I saw massive inconsistency with Jalen. So there's a lot of work to do for both those football teams.
Yeah, and I saw a video floating around. I haven't, there's obviously no confirmation on it yet, but it did look like something popped inside Jordan Love's knee.
Their season's over if that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm not going to,
And by the way, Zander, that benefit, watch this. This is like John knows. There's nothing shade here on anything. This is what the NFL is. It's called the war of attrition.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like last year, the Jets, John, they lost Aaron Rodgers. This
Poor
benefits
play.
the Eagles if this guy's out for an extended period of time, because they were considered one of the teams that when someone would go, I'm not wishing for anything. This is called the war of attrition. That's why it's a physical football game.
No, you're right. It's a good point. Last question before we get to our next commercial break. We're going to let John get out of here. I asked about Vic Fangio. I want to ask about Kellen Moore as well. John, what'd you think of Kellen Moore's offense tonight? I thought his play design was pretty good. Can't see too much of it, but I thought it was pretty good overall. What did you see from Kellen Moore's offense tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think the offense is pretty much what we thought it would be, a bunch of really good playmakers. And he was able to get them all involved. I think, Dan, they did run the ball effectively. And when you talk about those 2 throws to Devontae, even the announcers, Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge, I think were doing the game. They're saying, well, they're just going to run the ball. And they throw it and they have confidence. They get it to Devontae Smith. All of a sudden it's first down and the game's essentially over. So they can do everything. Dallas Goedert, as Dan mentioned, had a 21-yard explosive play. Saquon with the wheel route. They even got Grant. They spread the field, got Grant Calcaterra involved. The one Kenny Gainwell reception, he made 2 people miss. Even the role players are getting involved.
Will Shipley.
Will Shipley is a decoy. They used 21 personnel with Shipley and Barkley together. A lot of different things that'll make people happy. Just got to curb those turnover-worthy throws from the quarterback. And I talked about the misplays by the Packers. Then the Eagles could have been up near 500 yards if Jalen was a little bit sharper. So, yeah, good first impression by Kellen Moore. And that should be no surprise. Look, no offense to Kellen, but if you can't succeed with those playmakers
Yeah, right.
and that offensive line, you got issues.
Sills.
I'll tell you what, the thing that stuck out to me the most, John, was the play designs and the routes. Completely different than the last 2 years. They just looked more open and more precise routes by the receivers that were running them. I mean, even like he said with Shipley and the routes that Barkley was running too. I mean, and the using that they wouldn't do a year ago, the decoying of AJ and Devontae, opening up the other guys like Shipley and Barkley and Calcaterra. They felt comfortable doing that, or Kellen felt comfortable doing that. They just seemed to be more mature routes and how those guys were play designing those routes compared to what it was a year ago. So it looked effective to me. Again, though, Zander, I brought the point up again, and I didn't mean this as a slap at Jalen when it came to, is this thing going to be too complicated for him when you throw all of this at him with the responsibilities now? Or are you going to really just say, let's go out, do this, add this. Let's continue to morph into the offense that I want? Because to me, again, the offense that you see right now in September, my God almighty, there's no question. I don't expect to see that offense in December. Okay. I expect to see, what is the one word, John, that Kellen likes? A clean operation. There is no way that was a clean operation tonight.
No. And boy, I forgot to look at how many penalties there were tonight.
The Packers, were so sloppy, John, especially in the first half. They were, it just looked sloppily prepared. And I was shocked that Matt LaFleur's guys were not better coached heading into that game.
Yeah, 10 for the Packers, 7 for the Eagles. So a lot of yellow, which nobody wants to see, but that's the NFL. But there were a couple drives where the Eagles kept things alive for the Packers with defensive penalties, and vice versa, obviously from the Packers' perspective. But yeah, I mean, if you're grading Kellen Moore, I don't know how much more you could have asked for, other than the quarterback throws, the quarterback turnover throws, and turnover worthy throws, which really had nothing to do with the blitz, which is probably even more concerning, to be honest.
Good stuff there, guys. We're going to let Johnny Mack get out of here. He's got some other duties to do, writing some stuff. John, thanks for your work tonight. Appreciate everybody in the chat. We'll come back. There's tons of super chats. We got 33 super chats and new members here. So me and Dan are going to break it down for the next 30 minutes or so, and kind of get into the chat. So if you guys have some good chats, some good comments for us, we will go to them next. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Johnny Mack, thanks for doing it tonight. Great job tonight, man. And we'll be back in 3 minutes on the JAKIB Postgame Show.
He's blocked well and tries to